like, okay, now we have caught them. They've never been here.
Yes.
They've been out, getting all of the money, not thinking about who is at home. Now this is our opportunity to deal with them. And they bring all the traditions and all the customs and everything, to be able to rip people off. How do you deal with this when you're helping your clients?
It's an heartbreaking scenario anytime I get into that space. Because my belief is somebody just passed, no matter how old. Okay, over the period of my experience, I think the youngest I buried was just a 2 weeks fetus, and then the oldest probably about 103. And the 103, the eldest was probably close to 70, if not more, and he was crying. And I was like, who are you crying? Papa lived well. He said he didn't give them notice. Like that age, he could have been sick a little bit, and then the man just slept and didn't wake up. There was no sign he was not ill. So, I feel like that burden is enough. But the traditions, to me, personally, doesn't really help. Because just like what you said, this is the right time to catch you.
It happened to me.
The cost of even bringing the corpse from here to the village, it's a lot. Then the demand for this was not paid. So when it comes to that, the family takes care of it. We could just give them the support and said, okay, give them a bit. Some will insist that you will not bury. At times you have to just change it for them, so to say. Like, you have to make this thing happen. And then they feel like that's the opportunity. And it's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Well, okay, we've painted that picture, which nobody likes, where they're kind of like getting a pound of flesh, maybe.
Sort of.
But there must be something that communities do positively towards assisting bereaved families, to cope with financial strain when funerals come up in Nigeria. Do you have any such examples? It's not all bad, is it?
Well, but depending from the part
Where
of the
you
country,
come from,
where you come from. Okay, my dad passed on about 9 years ago, and then he was ill for a few weeks, about 2 months thereabout, and it was my place in Lagos. And at that time, he called myself, my mom, and then he has a business partner, Mr. Tuji Thomas, is late too, as well. And then he told us, okay, this is where I want to be buried, if it does happen. Because that's like the first time but that's about the second time you will have that kind of a prolonged kind of sickness. So it was clear. So for my family, my uncles, auntie, there was nothing to talk about. He had told me where he wants to be buried. And it happened. We buried him there. So basically, there's nothing the family should... They're not meant to put the pressure, really. They're meant to be supportive, but really, it doesn't really happen that way.
It doesn't really happen.
It doesn't happen that way.
I feel what you just said, because this can be the time to divide family members, uncles, aunties, and all of that, especially if there are no clear-cut instructions concerning where, the dead wants to be buried. Because the uncles and all of that, especially if the man is elderly and prominent, they would always insist that, the corpse is taken home. And when the children said, no, our father said, this is it, we should, it's usually a problem, and sometimes there's a lot of issues in the family. Do you step into such matters, really? Are you able to help, stabilize families at times like this when there's disagreement in the final place for rest?
Very well. Okay, I'm consulting for a funeral that's going to happen probably, I think, in May in Ogun State. And then the first thing I told the one of the children, or the grandchildren, like, where the purpose of this funeral is one. Ideas differ, but the purpose is to give Mama the final respect. There's where to bury already, that's clear. Every other thing is secondary. I've seen families break into pieces just because of one day event. It's going to go. You understand? It's going to go. And then you see grown, matured people, and why are you quarreling? So at times we'll come in, and then we're the middle person, and say, look, this is the purpose. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? And then you met together.
Okay.
which also probably my own personal, traits that, okay, I can be able to manage, quarrels and situations pretty well.
Okay.
And then before you know it, everybody comes around the table and sees the light. That we're here for just one single purpose,
Yes.
to give someone a befitting burial. So that should not cause a fight.
John, before you step in, finances, payments for the services.